What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 6, Episode 17, Sow Ladylike. Okay, we're starting off where we left off last week. And last week, the episode ended with Melody over at Kiki's house talking to Kiki about her legal situation, the whole situation of her being caught on, allegedly, we don't know what's really going on, about someone that looks like Kiki being caught on camera at Home Depot, stealing and using her own child as an accomplice to shoplift. So Melody was basically like, hey, people have been messaging me, telling me about how you were on Crime Stoppers or this whole Home Depot thing. Tiffany's even talking about it and saying that she wants to distance herself from you because you're going to ruin her brand, etc., etc. So what have you to say about all of this? So Kiki was like, you know what? I'm just waiting for the day that I'm going to be vindicated. Kiki's making it seem like it could either be a misunderstanding or it's just not her. So she has already lawyered up, so she can't say too much. She can't say anything at all, actually. And so we're not going to know until the dust has settled and this whole legal proceeding is over and done with. So, but she did say, I'm not on pills. Okay. It's not like I was trying to do something to get money, to buy pills. I am not back on pills again. So she tries to clear her name as best that she can without going into too much detail about what happened. So Melody, she is on Kiki's side because she brought her on this show to do her dirty work. And, so she's not going to go too hard on Kiki, and she can't go too hard on Kiki. So anyways, let's put that to the side. So then they start talking about Leticia, and Kiki says that she says, I do appreciate you for reaching out to me and checking up on me. And out of everybody in the group, she said that her own cousin Tisha was the last person to check on her. So Melody, trying to play peacemaker, says, well, when Tisha was going through her ordeal with all the internet rumors about Marceau cheating on her, did you ever reach out to her to check on her? And so Kiki says, well, no, I didn't, because I don't want to talk about Marceau with Leticia. I don't want to talk about those things with Leticia. She says she wasn't comfortable having that kind of conversation with her cousin. So Melody kind of sees herself as the peacemaker, and she says in her confessional that she doesn't have a problem trying to bring these two cousins together. Now, as far as Tiffany's baby reveal party, Kiki said that she will definitely attend. Now, we've been down this road before with Kiki where she'll say she'll show up somewhere and she doesn't. For example, I don't know if it was last season or the first half of this season. I'm so confused about the seasons because the way that Carlos King has, everything chopped and screwed. I don't know exactly when it happened, but when Leticia had her ceremony where she was given the key to the city, Kiki swore up and down, I'll be there for you, girl. I'll be there for you. And she didn't show up. Moving on from there, Marceau and Tisha. So we have this fake scene, in my personal opinion. I think it was like a fake scene with Leticia and Marceau in their new home that they're currently building or renovating. I don't know what they're doing. I think they're building I don't know what it is, but they're in the amidst the construction of their new home. And Leticia brings up this conversation about furniture budget. So she's asking her husband, what is the budget for the furniture? And so Marceau, he takes a deep breath and he's like, what is it that you want? Why don't you just tell me the pieces that you want? And Tisha was like, well, I want to furnish the whole entire house. And so Marceau was like, well, you're going to have to get that stuff from China as cheap as possible. And Leticia says, no, she doesn't want to do that. So then they go into this conversation about how Tisha thinks it's unfair that Marceau, with the budget, because I think they each give themselves a budget of how much they can spend on their own stuff, like whatever they want, like play money or something, whatever you want to do with this money. It's not for bills. It's like fun money. So, Leticia goes into this whole thing about how, well, Marceau, with your allowance, you can do whatever you want. With my allowance, I have to run everything by you. And so Marceau says, well, I only get $3,500 compared to your $5,000. But her $5,000, I'm pretty sure, is split between her and 3 children. And so they're going back and forth about who gets more, who's spending more. And Leticia says, well, I might spend more, but you have more like big ticket items that you spend your money on. And so then Marceau says, my car costs less than your purse. What are you talking about? This whole entire scene to me, I don't know if they were trying to just show off on the things that they buy. This whole scene to me was so trumped up and fake. But what I really wanted to focus on is how Marceau talks to Leticia. And to me, Marceau talks to her like she's a child. The way he kind of questions her mentality, he questions how she reasons. He really gaslights her. He tries to make her feel like her arguments are invalid. The things that she's saying isn't making any sense. There's no validity to anything that she's saying. I don't know if this is true or not, what's going on between them and how they're spending their money and their budgets and all of this. I don't know. But just the way he talks to her, I just didn't like it. She's a grown woman. She is a businesswoman. She is your equal partner, or so I'm hoping she's your equal partner, mother of your children, holding it down for you. And this is how you talk to her, like she's some type of an idiot. You know, the way he talks to her and the way she even acts with him sometimes, you completely forget that Leticia is a very educated woman, an accomplished woman, a businesswoman. But then he's like, Tisha, are you really? Tisha, is this how you? And then he just talks to her like she's just like an idiot. And then she plays up that role. Oh, Marceau. It's just like, okay, y'all. I can't do it. So that was the first time that I started feeling the heart palpitations. Moving on from there. Oh, and by the way, that whole scene ends with her asking him if she can get another SUV. And of course he said yes. Moving on from there, we have Stormy. So Stormy is meeting up with Tiffany to help with her baby reveal party. I guess to give her ideas, pointers, I don't know. So they start talking about the party, and Tiffany says that Tisha has not RSVP'd, so nobody knows if she's going to show up. And then Tiffany says something very peculiar. Tiffany says to Stormy, and what about that fight that you and Tisha got into at the last time that they were all together? And she's referring to the scene that ended the first half of the season where they were all at that restaurant together, minus Mel, I think. And Stormy got into it with Leticia about the whole booth fee thing and how Marceau talked to Tiffany, how Tiffany talked to Marceau, and then Tiffany had her issue with Leticia as well. So it's funny to me how Tiffany's like, oh, what about that fight that you had? You and Leticia really got into it. But Tiffany, you did as well. You had an issue with Tiffany as well, but she doesn't want to talk about that. So they talk about that, and Stormy says that she hasn't spoken to Leticia since that dinner. And Stormy says, you know what, I can deal with Tisha, I just can't deal with her husband, Marceau. She says that Marceau always wants to act and talk like he's the smartest person in the room, which he does. And she also says, I can't deal with men who act like bitches. In a way he does because of the fact that he likes to attack women. And it's very unsettling how comfortable Marceau feels because, his wife lets him get away with attacking her. So it's very unsettling how comfortable Marceau is in attacking other women and talking about other women and dragging other women. So Tiffany confirms that Kiki is definitely invited to her baby reveal party. And Stormy was actually shocked about this. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe that you're inviting her because you don't want any negative energy around your baby. And a baby reveal is very personal. And you don't want any of that negativity around your child. And so she says that, yeah, she was feeling some kind of way about Kiki with her past relationship and also with this whole Home Depot situation. But she said that she had a conversation with Mel, and Mel kind of convinced her to give Kiki the benefit of the doubt and give her another chance. So then they start talking about how is Tiffany handling being a new mom again. So Stormy, I don't know if Stormy was really trying to get Tiffany to get emotional and start crying or what. But every time Stormy would ask her, so how are you doing since you've had the baby? And Tiffany was like, I'm trying to hold it down. I'm struggling. Things are a little bit overwhelming, but I'm doing the best I can, which I thought was a very sufficient answer. But then Stormy kept on pushing it. And she was like, well, how do you really feel? Are you feeling depressed? And I'm thinking, is she trying to make her cry? Because, she kind of got, her eyes were turning red. And then Stormy says, your eyes are turning red. Are you about to cry? And I was like, Stormy, what are you doing? The girl already answered your question. So then she talks about how because Louis is not around, he's on the road with his team. I think he's a coach or something. So he hasn't really been around, and she's got to deal with the two boys and plus the baby and the business and trying to get back to work. So she's been feeling very overwhelmed, which is all understandable. Moving on from there, we have Leticia and Marceau. It is date night with the Fletchers. And y'all, this is when I had it. with Marceau. So it is date night with the Fletchers, Chris and Nell Fletcher, who I really adore this couple so far. They haven't disappointed me. So the Fletchers got right down to it. They had, first of all, before the Fletchers showed up, I felt like Leticia and Marceau, they don't really, fool with the Fletchers. So they really were kind of like, I thought that they were kind of like throwing a little bit of shade because Marceau said something about, well, they invited us and they're not even here yet. So they finally did show up, and Nell Fletcher got right down to it. And she wanted to know, why were they not invited to the Black Expo? So, the Fletchers say that the Scotts themselves had actually promised them, I think it was Leticia that had promised Nell, that they would definitely get an invitation to the Black Expo, but they never got it. So then Marceau was like, well, I don't even know what y'all did. I'm so sick and tired of Marceau saying this, because they said the same thing to Tiffany. Oh, we didn't invite you to be a keynote speaker. We don't even know what why don't you ask? The girl was right there on the damn show with you. Why don't you ask her, well, what is it that you do? Tell us about your accomplishments. If you feel like, you need a whole resume of who she is and what she does to see if she's worthy enough to sit on some rankedy stage with you, ask her the questions. So he tells Chris Fletcher, well, I don't even know what you did. If you really didn't know, which we know that Marceau knows, because we all know what Chris Fletcher does. We all know what he does. He's in real estate. We all know that. So for him to say, I don't even know what you did. I don't know if he was trying to be funny. I don't know if he thought he was trying to be cute or what the hell was going on. So Chris was like, yes, you do. I'm a real estate broker. And once again, if Marceau, I'm going to give you the benefit of the damn doubt. If you really didn't know what he did, you see they're successful. So why don't you ask? What is it that you do? So the Fletchers, in my personal opinion, I think the reason why the Scotts did not invite the Fletchers to the Black Expo, I think it's because the Fletchers are too accomplished, they are too polished, they are too educated, and they are too successful for the Scotts. And I felt like they didn't want to sit up next to a couple, like a power couple like the Fletchers, because it was going to dim their light. I think that's the reason why they didn't invite the Fletchers, because when I thought about it, I was like, that's a good point. Why wouldn't they not have invited the Fletchers? They're a very successful Black business couple. What? I was so confused. And so for him to say, well, I didn't know what you did, and you're jealous, you're envious, and you didn't want to be upstage. So you bring sorry, struggling Martell up there, who knows what the hell he's doing. He can't even pass his builder's test. You want to bring him up there. Of course, you're going to bring your own brother up there. And the only reason why you wanted Stormy up there was because I think that they felt like, even though Stormy is as successful as them, or maybe more successful as them, because she's got that hood in her, they thought that the way she talked and the way she presented herself, that they were still going to outshine her. So they only wanted people around that was either, like his brother, or people that they felt like they were going to look better than. So that's my personal opinion. So, then Nell says, well, what did you think we did, Marceau? And Marceau says, well, Fletcher, I know he's been very successful, and I just thought you were his pretty wife. Misogyny, misogyny, misogyny. This grown man said, well, I knew Fletcher was successful, but I thought you were just his pretty wife. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you say that to this couple, to their face like that? Who does that in this day and age? So in their confessional, they talked about their accomplishments, and also at the dinner table as well. They let them know. They let Marceau, they schooled him, and was like, we've been in business for like over 30 years in the Huntsville area. Nell is a very successful businesswoman. She runs a very successful daycare, etc., etc., etc. And so in their confessional, the Fletchers told us that, hey, we've been doing this for 30 years in Huntsville. We are the original power couple of Huntsville. And maybe one day, maybe in the next 30 years, Marceau can only hope and dream to be where we're at. Absolutely disrespectful. Absolutely. And Tisha just sitting there. So Chris then talked. So then Chris was like, Okay, so then Marceau says, as if this is going to make it any better, Marceau says, well, we didn't invite y'all to the Black Expo. First it was, we didn't know what you did. So then when that didn't work, he says, oh, because y'all are friends with the Holts and we were not really getting along with the Holts at the time. And the whole thing was just going to get really messy if we were to invite y'all and we're not feeling the Holts. In their confessional, the Fletchers said they were not feeling Melody. And we're friends with both of them. They're more friends with Martell. So, for them to say, oh, because we're not feeling the Holts, tell the truth. You're not feeling Melody, and we're friends with Melody just as much as they're friends with Martell. And maybe that's the real reason why they didn't want the Fletchers at the Black Expo. So then they tell him that's kind of immature, because that's really immature, because it doesn't matter who we're friends with. This is all for the community, because y'all keep on talking about it's for the community, for the community. Okay, the community would benefit from hearing from people like the Fletchers. So what does this have to do with friendships and Melody and Martell? That's personal. That don't got nothing to do with business. And, Marceau always wants to talk about it's all about business. It's all about making money. I'm a businessman. You want to present yourself like when it comes to business, you know how to handle it. So why are you letting personal feelings get in the way of business? Because I'm pretty sure the Fletchers and their story and their advice and their knowledge would have helped at least one person that showed up for the Black Expo. So that just shows how stupid and immature you are, Marceau. So then they talked about the whole thing about paying the vendor's fee and all of that. No, not the vendor's fee. They talked about whether or not why the keynote speakers were not paid. And so they go into this whole thing about, well, if you don't want to be philanthropic, then, we understand if you didn't want to be involved, referring to Melody, because Melody says, well, if I'm not going to get paid, I'm not going to speak. And so then Marceau says, well, I didn't really want her to speak anyway, because she really had nothing to give. She had nothing to offer, because all she does is sell t-shirts, and she really hasn't been in business that long. And so Fletcher then reminded him, but you were in business with her. She was worthy enough for you to partner up with her. She was a part of whatever Schult, whatever the hell it is. And that was a successful partnership, and y'all were making money from that. So what the hell are you talking about? Don't just, downplay her into, oh, she's just somebody that sells t-shirts on the internet. You were involved in her, and she helped y'all make a whole lot of money. So they were shading Melody for that. And then the Fletchers also said, hey, it's not just Melody that sells t-shirts. The Scotts do that too. They sell t-shirts on the internet as well. So Tisha, all of a sudden, this is so random, out of nowhere, Tisha goes, have you ever experienced infidelity? Where is that coming from? So Marceau shut that down, and he was like, I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry for my wife, my little ignorant wife over here. I'm so sorry. I know that somebody asked me that question, I'd be offended. And then Fletcher was like, we're not offended. We ain't offended by that. But Marceau shut it down. And so in their confessional, Nell was saying, I think the reason why she asked that, maybe because, she was reaching out for help, or she wanted some advice because she might be going through something in her marriage. True enough. That's what I initially thought, that maybe she said that because she's desperate for advice. She's slowly unraveling. And so she's just trying to get advice wherever she can, because this reminds me so much of, what was that show called? Love and Marriage DC, when Monique and Chris were on in the first season, and they had that dinner with all of their friends. And so in the middle of dinner, Monique Samuels was asking everybody, have you ever experienced infidelity? Not infidelity. What did y'all do to get through she asked them, like, have you ever experienced, no, she was asking for advice on how to make your marriage last. That's what it was. She was like, well, how do y'all make y'all's marriages last as long as y'all have? And it seemed like to me, she was asking that question because she was desperately needing advice on how to save her own marriage. And this is what it looks like to me with Marceau and Leticia. So, Marceau didn't want to go any further. He didn't want that conversation to go any further than that. And so that was completely shut down. Either she was needing advice, or she sees the Fletchers as this perfect power couple, and she wanted them to reveal some of the skeletons in their closet. Like, she wanted them to bring out some of their own dirt, because she knows how open and honest and transparent the Fletchers are. And so she's basically like, well, if people think that y'all are so perfect, let's talk about the infidelities in y'all's marriage. I think that's either she was trying to do that, or she really was seeking advice. Moving on from that, Tiffany's baby reveal. So she arrives at the venue, and nothing is set up and nothing is done. The balloons are still in the garbage bags. The food is not set out yet. The tables are bare and empty, and it's showtime. People start coming in. You know, we have Tiffany, we have Stormy coming in, and then Kimmy comes in, and then Melody, and then Nell Fletcher comes in, and nothing is set up. So I was like, what the hell's going on? So when Tiffany asked her event planner, like, what's going on here? Her event planner said, well, because it was raining and we had to take time to figure out how to pack everything. What? So people start showing up. And the first topic of conversation is the Black Expo, because Tisha is still not there yet. Or they don't know if she's going to show up at all. So they talk about that first. You know, where's Tisha? And Kimmy said, well, the last time I talked to her, she still had not RSVP'd. So I don't know if she's coming or not. Then they talk about the Black Expo. Once again, Tiffany brings up, and Stormy, you and Leticia really got into it. And finally, Stormy was like, well, you and Leticia got into it too. So then Tiffany, so then they talk about the booth fee, and, you know, Stormy talks about how Marceau pissed her off, asking for $100 for the booth fee. And then Stormy asked Kimmy, did y'all pay a booth fee? And Kimmy was like, well, initially I thought we didn't, but then later on, Maurice told me that Marceau asked him for $100, and so he ended up paying it, but I didn't know it until after the fact. Stormy said that she should have just been sitting in the audience with Tiffany, because she just felt really disrespected as a businesswoman. The whole thing was just really unprofessional. It would have been better for her to not even be involved in it at all. And so Nell Fletcher, I think she also had brought up how, did she bring up how they weren't invited to speak? I don't remember. But then at some point, Nell pulls Melody to the side, and she starts talking about the dinner that she had with the Scotts. So she tells Melody that, you know, well, because I think the purpose of the dinner was to see how the Scotts and the Fletchers were going to move on as friends. And so Melody was like, and so how did that go? Did y'all get that all squared away? And so Nell was like, not quite. Leticia told me that in order, that she's kind of hesitant about moving forward with us. And she says, you know, because she's having an issue with me and you being friends. And so then Melody says, well, she didn't have an issue with you being my friend when y'all were patronizing her businesses and helping her make money. She didn't have a problem. She wasn't, oh, we can't accept your money because you're friends with Melody. It wasn't an issue then, so why is it an issue now? So then Nell brings up how Marceau basically disrespected Melody and said that, you know, she really wasn't an established businesswoman. She hasn't been in business for a long time, and that she didn't deserve to be paid as a keynote speaker because she's unprofessional and all she does is sell t-shirts. And so, and that the only person who deserved to be, if they were going to pay, the only one who should have been paid was his brother Maurice, because he's a lawyer, but he just got his bar license because for a long time on the show he was studying for the bar. He just got his bar license. But anyways, whatever. So then Melody brings up, you know, well, at least, you know, I didn't have to sit up there on that stage with somebody who's being sued for $5.7 million because they're being accused of fraud. So then Mel goes in on the Scotts, and, you know, she talks about how Marceau is very disrespectful towards Black women, and she's so sick and tired of Black men, you know, talking down about successful Black women. And the whole thing to me is, obviously Marceau and Leticia, they still have this big problem with Melody. And I think a lot of it comes from jealousy. I think they're jealous of Melody because when Melody was married to Martell, they made such a big deal about, oh, your man's cheating on you. Oh, your man's having outside babies. And so Melody got rid of him. Like, they wanted her just to stay in that marriage and be miserable so they could continue to talk about her and feel like they can one up her to prove that, oh, our marriage is perfect and look at your marriage, it's falling apart. So Melody removed herself from that situation. And that didn't bode well with the Scotts. They didn't like that. They didn't like that she left Martell and was so much happier without him. Now, Marceau probably really didn't like it because it's probably giving his wife ideas, and Leticia didn't like it, you know, didn't like the fact that Melody was happier without Martell because she wanted her to stay miserable. As long as Melody and Martell were together and were miserable, they felt like they could compare themselves to them and they would always look better. But now that Melody left Martell and she's happier and she's more successful without Martell, it's kind of like making them kind of not look as great, because now all the rumors are swirling about Marceau being unfaithful to Leticia and them trying to hold on to their marriage. And so Melody's carefree. She's dating whoever she wants to date, doing whatever the hell she wants to do. She ain't tied down by no cheating man. She's a free, happy, successful woman. And I think that just burns the Scotts because, you know, like I said, Marceau doesn't want Tisha to get any ideas. And Tisha feels like, you know, once again, Melody is better than me, because to me, I've always seen Leticia as someone who was striving so hard to live Melody's life. Because when this show first started, when this show, season 1 of this show, I swear to God, I had no idea that Leticia was as accomplished as she was, because she just came off as just like a housewife. Whereas Melody, she was doing events after events, speaking engagement after speaking engagement. Because remember those scenes where, you know, her and Martell and the kids would go to whatever award ceremony that she was being presented an award for, and she would get up there and make her speech, and, you know, Martell would be sitting in the front with the kids holding her purse. And she was seen as a very successful woman, and Tisha was kind of seen as just a housewife, and I think that bothered her. So then she went back to school, got her degrees, and now she wants to be seen as this successful businesswoman. And remember, she also wanted to do speaking engagements too. That was something that she was really interested in doing, she wanted to copy Melody's life. And Marceau knows that. And so he's worried that maybe she still wants to copy Melody's single life. Anywho, Marceau, everybody sees right through you. I don't hear about Marceau having a lot of support or a lot of fans out there in the public. People might be a little bit more sympathetic with Leticia because she has to put up with him. But Marceau was not a fan favorite by far. And it's just, he's so misogynistic. He's very patriarchal. He's very disrespectful. I mean, he's one of those people that has a wife, which I'm sure he loves, and he probably has a whole bunch of women on the side, but he probably really doesn't like women. And I'm not talking about in the sense of like, you know, heterosexuality or homosexuality. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that he doesn't have a lot of respect for women. You can love women and be with women, but not have a lot of respect for them. And you see them kind of like second-class citizens. But anyways, I digress. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video, if you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.